pencil. So I wasn't sure what. Ooh, having asthma. Anyone else have asthma? It's terrible. If you're in the comments, if you're in the future and you have asthma, let me know. Still no heat in my house. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. And I don't know what. Oh, I need more paper. There we go. I don't know what we should draw today. I drew a broccoli a few years ago. Hey, Epic. How you doing? Do you have any, do you have a favorite vegetable? I'm drawing a broccoli. You know what I learned sometime? So I knew that broccoli and cabbage and like a lot of kale and stuff were all in the same family of brassica. I think that's the type of vegetable, isn't it? And they all have like a similar taste, or they can have a very similar taste. But what I didn't know was they're all actually the same plant. Like a dog is the same species of, like, even though you have, ooh, tomato. Yeah, sure, for sure. Let's do a tomato with a face. That sounds actually really fun. I worked on a farm for a year. And we grew tomatoes, and I learned a lot about like tomatoes. And tomatoes are so easy to cross-pollinate that it's really hard to keep your heirlooms. Oh, I can't. So when I'm drawing on my desk, I can't do the Discord, but I set up a Patreon, and so I think we'll do like a Patreon members stream where we do voice chat. But like I said before, I still have to run this by Oddfud. I talked to her about it a little bit. She does think it's a good idea. We just need to organize it and stuff a little bit better. So like I do these streams every day, and part of that makes it easy is that they're like always sort of the same. No, I think we're gonna have a free tier. So I think at least at first the Patreon will be only free tier. I don't know why I made this broccoli so like goofy. I love it though. And you're like, hey guys, what you eating? All right, let's do a tomato. This broccoli is great. Gosh, I'm really having asthma today. Pardon me. Okay. Oh, is this a specific tomato named Bob, or just any tomato with a face is Bob the tomato? Yeah, so heirloom tomatoes. So tomatoes in general are really easy to pollinate. And because of that, they can be really hard. Yeah, sounds good, Bob the tomato. It can be really hard to keep like a certain type of tomato pure. And especially heirlooms, which are very they're very like they're old fashioned, they're old seed stock, and so like their genes are recessive. A lot of their genes that make them what they are recessive. And so if they cross-pollinate with a modern tomato, instead of getting the heirloom tomato of the seed you planted when the fruit comes up, you instead get uh, the modern tomato, or a tomato that's basically identical to the modern tomato. I think technically it still has some of the heirloom in it, but and so it's like it's really hard to keep your heirloom tomatoes like separate. You either have to grow them like really far away from any other field that's growing tomatoes, or you have to grow them in a greenhouse with like filtration and stuff. We had We had a hoop house that we grew them in order to try to keep them from being cross-pollinated. Oh, that's great. I loved Windows XP. Like I think I got into computers very early. I was very young, and we had a computer for my mom was young, and her mom bought, or my grandma, right, bought her a computer so she could do school and stuff. Like she went back to school when I was young. And so we had like a old like DOS and Windows computer. Pardon me, pardon me. And so that's what I learned on first. I'm trying to. But then we got a Windows XP pretty early. Like I switched to Windows XP as soon as I was able. Loved Windows XP, learned the hell out of it. Took me a long time before I switched to 7. And actually I kind of skipped 7 and went to 8, which I know a lot of people hated. And now I don't want to give up Windows 10. Love Windows 10. Yeah. I learned a lot from not just manga, but also from some of the early American artists. Like uh, I'm drawing a blank. Winsor McKay, Chuck Jones, um, Carl Barks, and these guys influenced manga artists. So I didn't know that when I first started learning, I got really into like early American, like starting in the 1910s and going all the way to the like 1940s and 50s. Those were the artists, the cartoon artists that I really liked. And they did these big eyes, big expressive eyes. Some of them did these kinds of like these types of mouths. And then I somebody gifted me a book. They were like, "Oh, you really seem to like this style." So I saw this book and I got it for you. And it was like how to draw manga comics. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And I didn't think I would really look into it, but I did because it was another resource. I like to look at any resource I can. And they were doing a lot of the same things. And so I looked into it a little bit, and it turns out that Miyazaki, right, famous Studio Ghibli Miyazaki, his one of his big influences is Winsor McKay, who is a huge influence on me. I love his work. I have a giant book of Winsor McKay. I think I'll do a stream where I'll just read some of the book. This is so uneven, and I don't know what happened. I know what happened. My desk is crooked right now. I have to level it. I'll probably try to do that tonight. And because of that, it makes it really hard to like see what's flat and what's straight. So this looks better. Here we go. We got a blushing tomato. No, I totally forgot. I don't have a ton of time to play games, and so when I do, I don't always remember what I'm supposed to be playing. But oh my God, I really want to because I definitely want to see if I have any memories. I A while ago I was talking to somebody and I was like was remembering I think it was a Sonic level, and they were like a Sonic expert, and they were like, I've never heard of that. And then we looked it up, and it was from Sega Channel. So I think I'm gonna write this down. He'll remind me. Broccoli. was here. Yeah, so does the XP run the PS1 ROMs? I have a story about ROMs. I don't think I've told this. I know I've told it online, but I don't think I've told it on the stream. Let me zoom out just a tip bit. There we go. But I don't think I've told it on stream. Um, oh, what's that? I'll have to clean that up. So I love ROMs. I think preservation is really good. Yeah, that's great. PS1 emulation. I think when I had an XP computer, PS1 emulation was like sort of possible, but not really. But I guess the emulation got better before I don't know. I don't remember the emulation timeline super well. But so when I was young, I had a friend, super like genius. He was sort of a friend. I went to school with him. He was in classes with me. Um, Genius kid. We were in advanced classes together. That's how I knew him, because I was also in like advanced math and stuff. And then we both got dropped out of advanced math because we didn't do our homework. Fine, whatever happens. And then we both ended up in the same math class again. But this was a math class where you can like see me, seeing me, seeing me. Hang on, we gotta move that. There you go. We were in the same math class again, right? Okay, we did another food. Yeah, I remember being able to play music from PS1 CDs. That was pretty common. I'm trying to think of a food. Let's do another vegetable. I do eggplants. Let's do an eggplant. So we would slack off in this new math class because it was stuff we already knew. We didn't get kicked out of our old math class because we were bad at math. We got kicked out because we didn't do our homework. Hey, Jurassic Fine Art, welcome. And so we sat in the back and we just screwed around. And one day he takes out his laptop and it's got an N64 controller hooked up to it, which I had never seen. And I was like, whoa, that's freaking cool, man. He's like, I want to show you something. The eggplant where the eggplant itself is a nose. Interesting. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, what do you want to show me? And he starts playing Mario 64 on his computer, on his laptop. Now, this is 2001, 2002, which totally crazy. Had never seen anything like that. I loved the N64 games. I had a computer at home. I could not figure out how to emulate N64 games. I did not think there was an emulator. So I saw this and I was like, oh my God, where'd you get this? And he goes, oh, it's new. And I was like, this is great. And he's like, do you want to play? And I play the first time the first time I ever played Mario 64 was on a laptop in math class in 2001. I went home to like drawing people is so friggin' hard. Like it takes me more like I can draw a lot of stuff first try, right? You've seen me draw animals and like sometimes the things I need to correct on animals are like, oh, their eyes are uneven or like I've made some kind of silly mistake. So my second draft on animals is usually like move this a little bit to the right or move this a little bit over here or like cut and paste this over there. Nothing really big. But on people, man, I'll have to draw people. I don't know why I'm giving this eggplant a mouth like a beard, but I am. On people, man, I gotta. Sometimes I have to redraw people like 3 or 4 times. I'm just not great at it. I mean, I can still get it done in relatively um, quickly, but it's freaking hard. Yeah, so it turns out I don't know where this guy got this emulator or if he even programmed it himself. He definitely could have. I mean, I don't know if he definitely could have. He had programming knowledge, so it is possible, but it wasn't available at the time. So like he either programmed it himself or he knew somebody who was programming one that was not released to the public. And I didn't realize this at the time. It was, well, I not at the time I was playing. I did realize it pretty quickly. Oh, mm. Ooh, Crash Bandicoot redesign. I didn't do a wide kick today. I had a penguin wide kick yesterday. That was fun. It was like it was giving a salute. I don't know why. I think because I was just sketching it like totally crazy. And so like it ended up having a salute and I was like, yeah, that's great. It's a wide kick. What am I gonna do? Like bust out my eraser and try to fix it? No. The answer is no. Should we do color on this eggplant? I think I have some purple. We'll do a little scribble color. Or yeah, All right, let's do some color. Wide kick pumpkin. Let's see. I do like this eggplant. This eggplant has grown on me very quickly. Yeah, N64 emulator, that shouldn't have existed. Pretty freaking cool. I was talking about, oh yeah, the influences on anime are is early American art, which was really cool to learn. Two of my favorite artists, influences maybe, not my favorite artists exactly, Miyazaki and Winsor McCay. I found out that Miyazaki was a huge fan of Winsor McCay, and that you can see it when you know. You can look and you can see how much of an influence McCay had on Miyazaki. Super neat. Oh, hey Pebbles. I remember. Welcome. Pebbles was confusing at the time because you were Pebbles and then somebody had a cat named Pebbles and we drew the cat. And so there was two Pebbles. But yeah, I remember. I remember. I'm gonna get some nice like red undertones in here. Hang on, let me sharpen this so I can get a flatter edge. Yeah, so oh, congratulations. That's great. Really freeing. I'm gonna get some red undertones in here because I feel like this purple is a little cool, but I don't want to go too hard because I don't want it to be super red. I just want it to be purpley red. And I want to do it near the sides so it can like add into the shading. Okay, so you okay. So maybe there was you were the Pebbles with the cat named Pebbles. I think there was another Pebbles who didn't have a cat named Pebbles. They were just Pebbles who showed up for a while also. And it was a little confusing, or at least confusing for me. And but cool. We got it. Ash, welcome. I'm gonna leave this one spot like kind of light. I'm gonna kind of outline it now lightly so I don't forget because I want it to be like the reflection because eggplants are pretty shiny. Yeah, here, let me show you the book. I'm gonna make a crashing. I might knock things over here. Ooh, I didn't knock anything over. Okay. So, ooh, nice. I've not been to a zoo. I've not been to a zoo. This is Winsor McKay. This is the complete Little Nemo. There was a movie, Little Nemo, before the fish one, and there was a sequence in it animated by Miyazaki before he started Ghibli. And so he's one of my favorite influences. So I was thinking of reading it. This is in public domain, so I can totally read this on stream, and it's not I won't get in trouble. So I was thinking about this is some history. We didn't get into the where does it start? Here we go. I was thinking about reading some of these on stream. If you guys thought that would be interesting. Some of these illustrations are wonderful. So Miyazaki from Studio Ghibli, a lot of his work is influenced by this artist. And you can totally tell when you get into it. Whoops. Yeah, I should totally go. I don't my my school went on a trip. I live in the United States, in New York. So my school went on a trip to the Bronx Zoo when I was a kid. But I didn't go. I can't remember. We probably because we didn't have the money. I grew up, let's say they gave me free lunch. And so I missed most school trips unless there was like a beneficiary, like a what's it called? Somebody paid for me. Like sometimes there was a charity that would pay for kids to go on school trips. Oh, welcome back, Fungi. Yeah, we did an early. I try to do early on Wednesdays, although sometimes it ends up being late instead. But I try to do an afternoon one on Wednesdays. Afternoon for me. I know like it's evening in other places and sometimes I'll do two on Wednesday. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. I like to do Wednesday. I like to do the night stream where you see my face. Okay, 4:36. That's what time it is here. I was wondering. Yeah. It's pretty cold here. We're freezing right now. Or just above freezing with a little rain. I'll have to watch the roads for ice. Man, okay. So the UK, All right. I didn't know for a long time how north the UK is. So because of the jet stream or whatever, the UK gets more temperate weather than if it was most other places and as far north as it is. So I lived on Long Island, which is off the coast of New York. It's one of the biggest islands. I think it's the biggest island in the United States, like continental, not Hawaii. I think Hawaii is bigger. But besides that, one of the biggest islands in the United States, and um, it sits on the Atlantic Ocean. So like a handful of years ago, I started watching tons of British television. I became obsessed with British culture. And I was wondering one day, like, how, when I look across the ocean, when I look across the Atlantic Ocean, like, what part of Europe am I looking at? That's what I was trying to figure out. And I was like, surely it's England or whatever. Um, no, I said, surely it's more, but anyway, England is further north than I thought. That's the whole point of that. Um, or Britain is, which contains England. So you know. All right, Mix Max, we are doing a uh, what are these called? Vegetables. Vegetables with faces. And so we did eggplant. We did broccoli. And we did bashful tomato. I think bashful tomato is my favorite, but also it disturbs me. It doesn't have to be vegetables. It can be any yeah, I think we're at like 1 or 2 today here. Celsius. Sorry. It's not, we're not being strict on the definitions of the vegetables. Let's use the brush. I never use the brush because I'm like it has so much give, and like you can make lines really thick or not, and I'm just like it's a lot of thinking to use it, and so I just don't. But let's use it today. It's really a lot like using a brush, except I find the ink is a lot less. It's still like a marker. When I use a brush with real ink, the ink is a lot more flowy. Ooh, a happy fig. Heck yeah. Yeah, I moved. I don't know. I've lived a lot of places the last few years. I say few, the last like 10 years. So where I grew up was surrounded by ocean, on an island. And so like it would get cold and snow because I was still in New York, which is still pretty far north, but not as often as like a lot of the rest of New York because the ocean holds a lot of heat and keeps. But then I moved inland and into the mountains, and oh my God, will it get cold? Well, I was having asthma before. That's how I started this stream. being super asthmatic. We had a fig tree when I was growing up. It had to be moved. It had to be so well taken care of because like I said, I lived where it was very cold. So we had to keep it inside in the winter and take it out and bring it in and make sure it got some sun and put it under the sun lamps. And we didn't have a greenhouse, but we had these like hot houses. We had to do that. Sorry, there's sounds. Oh yeah. There's a lot of places in the mountains where or there's all sorts of what are they called? Like climates, microclimates and stuff. So gosh, it's really loud outside. I lived in Seattle just for a little bit less than half a year, a little bit more than half a year. So I wasn't there in the summer. I was there through the fall, the winter, and spring, and the beginning of spring. And it rained almost every single day. And it was just like that's how it went. Like that's how the climate was. And it was explained to me is that like I know there's mountains in Ecuador because coffee comes from there. It has to be grown on the mountain. So, but here's what is explained to me, right? So Seattle's here and you have like the sound and the ocean and stuff over here. This is not accurate. And then you have these mountains all here, right? And then as the water evaporates here, it gets kind of pushed inland. And then as it gets to here, either cold air comes down from the mountains or this moist, warmer air tries to go up the mountains. And either way, it causes the air here above the city to not be able to hold as much moisture. And so then it all falls out of the sky. And so that's why it rains a lot in Seattle. It's a microclimate. Um, but there's places that are just like that all over the world, right? So I know on one side of Chile, on one side of the mountains, the Andes, is that the Chilean mountains? Uh, it's pretty wet because of the moisture from the ocean, and exactly the same thing is happening at Seattle. And on the other side, there's this big like shadow of dryness that's caused because the moisture can't get over the mountains. Dang, that's crazy. That is loud raining. Uh, let's see. I've seen hail just a little bit smaller than this. Like if I ripped this eraser in half. Here. Whoops. Oh no. I've closed the chat. Like this big. This is two together, but if it was one this size, that's how big the hail was. Oh my gosh, I really froze this dang. Okay. I'm back in the chat. Yeah, that's crazy. Hail that big. Okay, let's do a fig. Lovely. Figs are friggin' delicious. Oh, Odd Fudd, welcome, welcome. Should we do? No, this is good. I'm not. We'll do purple. We'll do it like really ripe, right? When I imagine figs on the tree, which are like, like that light green. Or I imagine dried figs. It's very common here. But I guess figs are mainly like purple. Oh, take care, Jurassic. Nezuko. Hey, Desert, welcome. It's old here. What is that from? We just watched this movie. Art shorts off your YouTube. Dang. I don't know what my shorts on YouTube are always like. I don't even know. I wish I didn't watch YouTube shorts. I find them to be entirely too distracting. Like all of a sudden, it'll be like an hour later or half an hour later, 45 minutes later. And like it's so okay. So I think figs, whereas the eggplant had a lot of like red undertones, I think figs have a lot of blue undertones. A sugary onion. Yeah. Yeah, I had to stop TikTok. I've been thinking about putting it back on my phone just to post my shorts to it. Or yeah, that's it. Just that. Just to post my shorts to it. And I stopped doing Instagram reels. I like YouTube shorts because it feels like it actually is a little bit less like I think I want to say predatory. Yeah. Yeah. Odd Fudge YouTube shorts are weird. I agree. Yeah, I have Insta exactly to um, text my friends. That's exactly why. But the problem is I've turned on notifications so I know when my friends text me. And you used to be able to turn on just the message notifications, but they got rid of that because I think people they knew, or at least I can't do it. Maybe I'm dumb. Hopefully I'm dumb and I can change it. Uh, but I also want to see mentions because I know people will mention me, like if I'm in an art show or something like that, and I want to see that so I can repost it. But now I get all these like recommended for you posts and stuff. And it's like Instagram, I don't want. I've never clicked on any of this. Leave me alone. Just if my friend or my mother-in-law texts me, let me know. Other than that, shh. Yeah. I heard Jelly Roll is going to be an animated movie in an animated movie called Goat. Oh, I don't know, Jelly Roll. What I the name is so familiar. What am I? Why can't I think of it? Well, thank you, Desert Rain Frog. I appreciate that. You know what I click not interested on most is like those AI like voice channels that are like like saying something that maybe is true but probably isn't, and like in 1604 this guy did that thing, and you're like, oh, okay, this is something I'm interested. Hey, wait a second, freaking AI. That's what I mostly say. Do not recommend channel. Not interested. They still try to give it to me all the time. I guess I'm like of the age where they're like, you like history. Take care. Thank you. Bye, Ashley. Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, like those art shorts for sure. I guess I don't have a lot of art shorts on my YouTube. What one that I have that I like is the weird big white monster, but she uses the same song for every one of her shorts. It's like, hello? Yes, we will make Fig happy. I forgot to leave whites for the eyes, so let's see if we can add them with this white marker. Oh yeah, the one where people open their eyes. I almost did one of those, like, but as art, like drawing. And then I get ones that are like, yeah, the teaching art. The ones that are like pretending to teach art, but feel like, okay, bro, calm down. Like maybe they're teaching art. I don't, it doesn't feel like it to me. Okay. I'm gonna do, yeah, thanks, Mixed Max. Yeah, it's true. I only want like getting views is great, but I'm not gonna do those types of gimmicky. Like the most I'll do is if I notice a trend, which I don't usually, because I don't follow a lot of those TikToks. I might do my own version of the trend. I don't like to copy the trends one for one, but my favorite things to do are like or these kinds of like draw whatever type of streams, like let's draw streams, and also the ones where I like draw stuff and talk about trivia about it, right? So like I know a lot of trivia. This is something that I'm really interested in besides art. So like figs, right? Like I think every fig is pollinated. Figs are only pollinated by wasps. And so every fig has a species of wasp that pollinates it. That's That's the only piece of trivia I know about pigs off the top of my head. We have to let the paint dry and then we'll add some expression. It's so wet. Oh yeah. Somebody must have made this joke before, but I was thinking how much like garlic he looked. Okay, while he's drying up, I think we can squeeze a garlic friend right here. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, a garlic and a shallot and a leek. We'll do garlic first. When I worked on the farm, we grew garlic plants and we cut you have to cut them when they start to produce a flower. Otherwise, they don't bulb as much. There's a lot of stuff like this that I didn't realize. Like I always thought gardening and farming, you basically like planted plants and then when it was time to harvest, you harvested them. But there's a lot of them where it's like you need to do a step in between in order to get them to actually do the job you want them to do. So like potatoes, you get one potato if you just plant a potato plant and leave it. But what you should do is you plant a potato plant, and then when the first couple of leaves come up, or the second set, you have the potato plant grows up, first set of leaves, second set starts blooming like that. You bury the plant up to the second set of leaves that have just started blooming, and so you get this big mound of dirt with just the top two leaves, and now these are likely to turn into potatoes too. Yeah, we'll do smug garlic. You would be smug. Papery SOB. Okay. And so like there's all sorts of stuff like that. So for the garlic, it grows these little like sprouts on the top of the stem or on the side maybe, that is going to turn into a flower. But if you let it flower, it'll put a lot of its energy into the flower instead of making this bulb of garlic, which is underground. And so is it underground? Yeah, I think so. So instead of letting it flower, you cut the ramp off before it even has started to turn into a bloom. And then you get these little like they're called ramps, but they're just these little like sprouts, like garlic flower sprouts, and they taste so garlicky. And they're so like buttery. It's really interesting, but they're really hard to ship, and they're only in season for like a very short period of time. So people will like preserve them. I'm gonna try to make this just a little bit more even. Okay, I think that's the garlic should fight a vampire. Yeah. Ooh, is this dry? Not yet. Close, close. What would be a vampire plant? Mistletoe? It's not a food. Mistletoe is a parasite. I don't know why I'm having like I want this to look good and be right, but I'm not getting what I want from it. So I'm just gonna choose a shoot stop. I'm gonna stop working on it and just let it have a stopping point. I mean a finished. I'm gonna stop trying to make it what I want it, and I'm just gonna keep going, is what I'm trying to say, not stop. Pickled turnips. Hmm. Ooh, parsnips are good. Parsnips vampire? Turnips, turnips, turnips. Yeah, I think I like turnips. Yeah, so I think some weeds might be parasitic by like linking their roots up with other uh plants and taking their nutrients, but I think most weeds are gonna be they're like they're a pest for sure. Like they're bad for the farm because they do take the nutrients out of the soil and they will outcompete some of your crop. Like they'll just grow too fast and then they'll take all the resources, but I don't think they're technically parasites, except for the ones that link up roots. But mistletoe grows off of trees and it doesn't have its own root system at all. It just links up to the trees and starts stealing their resources. Yeah, I'm trying to think regular turnips. I know I must have had regular turnips. I think I like turnips. I like parsnips. There's two types of parsnips. This was something I learned working on the farm. There's two types of parsnips. I think garlic has this like barely perceptible greenness to it. There's parsnips that are 1 year old, and there's parsnips that have been overwintered and are 2 years old. The younger parsnips, the single year parsnips, basically you grow them like carrots, kind of like moss. Yeah, but it's like a regular plant. So you have then you have the other kind of parsnip where oh, I forgot we're gonna make this guy smug. It grows, and then you how do you I forget how to overwinter it. I think you bury it. This is off the top of my head. I think you let it grow regular. You have like you let it grow regular and it kind of looks like a carrot. I forget what it actually looks like. And it has the little root underground, and that's the parsnip. And then it gets to fall, and instead of harvesting it, you bury it. And then that keeps it warm so it doesn't freeze. And then it still grows using like all the resources that it would have had, and it gets bigger and it gets spicier. And so young parsnips, 1 year parsnips are really sweet and mild. And then overwintered parsnips or 2 year old parsnips are big and spicy. They have like a black pepper almost taste to them. Okay, let's see. Smug. This isn't quite smug. It's kind of like, ugh. This is almost bashful. Let's, because when I do smug, what do I usually do? Like, I don't usually have the mouth open. That's my smug smile. So we can try that. It's very close. I just have the mouth open here, so we can. Ooh, this eraser was dirty, and it got the picture dirty. Wow. It happened again. Oh well. Yeah, that's a lot more smug. I think even the looking away. All right. Computer, what happened? What the heck? My YouTube behind the scenes, like workstation that tells me like what's happening in the stream is so far behind. Okay, all right, I think this is dry enough now. We can get some happiness. Ooh, maybe not. Okay, it's dry enough. The pencil's just not working, so we're gonna have to do graphic markers. So like, let's hope I don't mess up. Well, all I'm doing is drawing some straightforward eyes, I think, so it should be okay. No, you know the difference between a shallot and an onion. Maybe Julia Child wouldn't because she was drunk on red wine, but somebody would know. So I'm allergic to onions, and I'm not allergic to shallots or scallions or that's it. I'm allergic to most or leeks. Okay, maybe not by taste. I would know because it wouldn't make me feel sick, unlike an onion. Where I think we're just gonna do straightforward, looking right at us, happy to see us, eyes. We'll do the cutout. Be right back. Nope, this looks bad. I don't often do teeth on my mouths because I feel like I get them messed up all the time, but that doesn't look terrible. Mouth teeth. There's like there's a bunch of things. There's like a bunch of rules for teeth because it's like they're really easy to make look wrong. So a lot of this type of illustration is all about not making things look wrong because then like faces especially, people will just make them look right in their heads. What color eyes does a fig have? Like green? Green. Yeah. Okay, he looks very excited to be here. Okay, I still have about a half an hour, so that's pretty good. Smug garlic. We'll give garlic. Let's give garlic also green eyes, but this green, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess what I mean, that's a good call out. I guess what I mean to say is like there's a lot of things that will twig your brain into going when you're drawing like faces and stuff that into going like, oh gosh, no, that looks off, right? I guess it's like you enter the uncanny valley. And if you can avoid that, you can do a lot of things that are technically like wrong without it looking wrong. So, one thing that I learned that I still struggle with, but is definitely something that I was taught early and I still try to follow is like noses, right? Well, teeth is a good example. If you drew each individual tooth, if you wanted it to look great and look right, then you would have to make it look almost perfect to get each individual tooth. And so to make it look okay and not twig people to go, well, that's not right, you can kind of just add the little hints of teeth, or you can leave them totally blank. One thing cartoons will do, and you'll notice this if you watch a cartoon, some cartoons, I guess some do it differently, but you have like the happy mouth. Instead of drawing like this line for teeth, you'd think like we'll just draw the straight line across. What they'll actually do is they'll have the happy mouth and they'll just kind of like hint at the teeth like that. Or like I've done here on the fig, instead of drawing like each line for each tooth, what they'll do is they'll kind of shape the teeth out with these hints. And in that way, you can even shape out some canines if you want. And that looks more natural, even though you're doing less of the you're like less accurate in a way. And this does not look great because it's not attached to a face or whatever, but it's that idea. Yeah, I think that's important too. Yeah, I mean, at least for me, I don't think photorealism. So my first ever job that I got paid to do that would be considered artistic was photography. I sold a couple of photos and I was hired to take photos of actually, ironically, not ironically, I guess, of people's artwork for preservation. I was trained. I took a couple of photography classes, had a good camera, and was really technically understood what I was doing. I'd have to refresh if I wanted to do this again, but it was all about, even if there was a light, I could take photos of art, get pretty close to real colors or real colors, and not have any glare. And so I would get hired to photograph people's art collections, or before they sold them, like shows when they put them into a gallery. So for me, trying to do photorealism in art feels like a step backwards. Like like just take a photo, right? And especially a lot of photorealism. Listen, if photorealism is your thing, some people have made really good careers out of doing photorealistic paintings. And that's fine. But I think of like, I don't I, it's an amazing technical skill, right? You take a photo and then you create it. You use that as your base and you make a photorealistic painting, and maybe you alter some details and you do some changes. I think that's great. And I think like when people do photorealism, but it's surrealist, I think that can look really good too. But you do sacrifice some of your voice when you do photorealistic, right? Because you're where's your expression? Your expression has to come from the uh, subject, right? If you're doing photorealistic, but if you're doing like an art style, your expression can just come from your style. Like you can be expressive. All right. We have broccoli. We have eggplant. We have bashful tomato. We have a fig. We have garlic. No, let's not do bugs. Not today. Let's do another food. We've been having good luck with the food. Bash, because they might throw tomatoes at me. I was so I was so like, ooh, cranky corn. I like corn. I did sign work for a little while, and I thought I would try to get into it, but I still might. There's a sign place here. I might try to work for them. Um, and one of the ones I did was a giant corn, Georgia O'Keeffe flower. That could be an interesting uh like stream or experiment where like I draw famous artists' works in my style, like a Georgia O'Keeffe, or I really love like Salvador Dali. I'm doing this corn way too detailed to be, it's like almost not the same style as the other pieces. Let me kind of undetail it up. We grew organic corn on the farm, and it was such a pain in the ass. Most farms, we had a big corn production. I wasn't in the Midwest, we were on Long Island, but they did a bunch of big corn. Like there's a lot of local corn. But most places, I think we were the only place that did organic corn. There was one place that said they did organic corn, but they didn't. And then there was us, and we did organic corn. And then there was another place that was all organic except their corn. So it was a real, like, places did not do organic corn nearby. And we found out why. We had like 100 to 200 corn plants, not like 6 rows, like not a lot of corn at all. And in order to keep the cornflower worm, I forget what it's actually called, but basically there's a worm that gets into or grub that gets into the corn silk. And if you let it grow, it will eat your corn. And then you don't have any corn, right? So you have to get rid of this worm. And that's a big part of why people spray the corn. So it gets rid of the worm. You spray it early, then there's no worm. And we couldn't do that. So instead, one of the methods that we were looking into or that we were using was you take corn oil, organic corn oil, and you inject the end of the corn with it while it's growing, and that supposedly will suffocate the worm before it grows big enough to eat anything. And then you're done. Then you're all good. So we had to go around to each corn. So on every corn plant, there was at least 2 ears. A lot of them had more. And we had to find the ears when they were young and inject them with this corn oil. I think we had to do it a few times. Yeah, I don't think it did. Um, we did get some organic corn, but I don't know if it was because we did the corn oil or if it was just because the worms didn't eat every ear. So it might have stopped them from spreading, but I don't think it stopped. I think if there was already a corn worm in there, It was cornwormed. The grubs were weird. I don't generally like worms or grubs. Like, I don't mind a lot of insects, but worms and grubs I find a little squeaky. But the cornworms, they're like nice. They're like giant. They're very grubby. So it's like the little feet. They're like this big compared to the corn. And they're like very colorful and they have a clear mouth parts. They were nice. I don't know why I liked them. They freaked me out less than other things. Maybe, oh, and they're like green. Maybe it was because I had to see them all the time and I was just like, okay, I can either be freaked out by this and my job is annoying and hard, or I can just be like, yep, that's a thing. All right, I think we're gonna do the face down here. I wasn't sure. I'm still not sure, but let's try the face. Oh, cranky. I think cranky people. I'm gonna erase this middle part of the. It's still there, but in order to have the face be, I think cranky people's eyes are less up and down. I think they're green. I want to look them up now. I'm not trusting my memory. It's from like a long time ago. Cornworm. I don't even remember what they're called. I think it's called cornworm. So that's good. They're from a moth. They're a moth worm. Okay, okay. Yeah, the big ones are green. I didn't do it too bad of a job. So instead of the stripes being this way, they're this way. They're segmented, so I had that right. They do have the little feet and the mouth parts. Yeah, but they're striped up and down instead of left to right. But I was pretty close otherwise. I guess there's some of them that can be brown, but I didn't. That's not the kind we had. The ones we had felt like they were friggin' neon green. A negative Canthal tilt for crank. I don't know what that means. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I know what you're saying. Yeah, negative Canthal tilt for cranky or old. I must have known this word before. I'm gonna do big bushy eyebrows because we associate crankiness with old men. So I'm gonna stick with that association. So Canthal tilt. I had to look this up, but let's do a mini It's about the corners of the eyes. So if your corners of the eyes are basically next to each other, straight across, and this is how your eye looks. That's a neutral, Cantel tilt. I might be pronouncing it wrong. If you're if the corners are positive, which means the inside is lower than the outside. That's a positive Cantel tilt. I did a whole, there was a whole book where I was reading all about, at least one section. It was all about eyes and eye shape and like the different main eye shapes. And then a negative, and this is associated with like youth and friendliness. I don't think neutral, I don't know what neutral's associated with. And then negative is associated with age and crankiness and being a grump. I don't know. So we've gone negative here. And I'm going to try to make the eyes look angry also. Oof, there's like a diesel truck parked outside. It's shaking everything. Always makes me uncomfortable. So I was thinking that. I was thinking, what if I had a popped kernel? And then I was thinking of making him say I'll give you a piece of my mind. And it's like his head is open. Just full human nose. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. Like the negative tilt looks sort of like soulful. Kind of like sometimes when people look sad, they also look thoughtful. I don't know why cranky is associated with like tired, but I do know actually, right? When you're tired, you're much more likely to be cranky. So never mind. Just like when you're old, you're much more likely to be cranky. Okay. I feel like the silk on the top, like the corn silk on the top, is like he's going bald. And then like the corn silk from here where so like he has like that he has like a very strange hairstyle where he's sort of got like bangs. Like if he was a person, this would be his hairstyle. This is all shiny. Ay, ay, ay. Someone's like car alarm or something is just beeping. It's driving me crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They put me in a room with a beeping car alarm. Car alarm? Car alarms drive me crazy. Okay, let's do some green and some yellow and some orange and some, that's it. No, no, one more. This one. Okay. I was feeling like he would say, like, don't make me give you a piece of my mind, or I'll give you a piece of my mind, or you damn kids, stay off of my field. I'll give you an earful. Any of those is fine. Cornworms. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Cornworms are sometimes called earworms, which is creepy. Imagine, oh, you got an earworm. And someone's like, oh, what song? And you're like, no. And you pull one of these grubs out of your ear. Oh, what a terrible scenario. Yeah, sorry, sorry. We've there's been a couple times where we talked about worms on this streams, and it's not been good. I think we'll sidewards yellow the whole thing, and then we'll come in with some orange. And we'll actually a lot of the corn we grew Silver Queen, which is like a white corn, and then we grew something that was like a white and yellow corn. I don't think we grew like straight yellow corn. This beeping is killing me. But I'll use the orange as a little bit of shadowing, just so like actual light has touched this instead of just drawing. Okay. Let's see. What time is it? Oh, I have to go soon. The screen is a little too blue, but I do want something to differentiate the front of the outside of the corn husk from the inside of the corn husk. So I did this one. Maybe I would make it a little bit more yellow. Yeah, let's just do that. Throw a little yellow on top of it. That feels better. Just to counteract that blue in that darker green. I should have done his nose. That's fine. Yeah, okay. So like this guy would be like getting really angry, and then the kids would be making fun of him, and then they'd be like, "Oh, don't piss off Mr. I don't know, Husk over there. Like he flies off the handle in a jiffy. He loses his mind in a jiffy." And they're like, "What? So what?" And then like there's a big piece of popcorn like flies off the back. Even though technically the corn you would eat, it wouldn't be the same corn that pops, but that's okay. Popcorn is a whole different ballpark, whole different can of worms, as they say. We started making popcorn from scratch. I mean, we didn't start growing it, but we started doing the buying the popcorn and oil popping it in the pot, and it's good. I prefer it to air popped, which is also good, but I prefer it to air popped, and I much prefer it to microwave. And it doesn't. I used to think like it took a long time when I first started, but I don't think it doesn't take that long. The biggest thing is you need a big pot. Um, but when you get the recipe down and you start to like mess around with it, it's pretty delicious. We did the big thing for me was there was an article talking about how movie theater popcorn was much better in previous decades. And I was like, much better? Like, what are you even freaking talking about? Like, how is that a thing? And it turned out they switched the oils they were using. So there's something about soy oil where it, I'm gonna add a little black to the orange in the eyes and maybe a little red. Like I want him like cranky, but that orange looked a little too much. That already looks better. It looks like a reddish brown eye. I like that. I like that. Oh my gosh. I did see this once. It was like a giant circle, a giant sphere, and with a valve on it. And they heated the sphere over a fire and they're spinning and spinning and turning it. And then they opened it up. And it was like, and then it all popped. So I think it must be what you're talking about, but maybe I saw a different version. I should look up. I just saw it on a short at some point. I should look up what you're saying though. That sounds cool. Yeah, I love the popping corn because like we figured out like there's such a big difference. You wouldn't think there is, but there's a big difference between like the oh yeah, so the article was saying the thing I read, and I'll get back to this, was saying like the movie theater popcorn used to be so different because they would use coconut oil to pop it. And like they did that because they thought it was best. But then it's been expensive. It's expensive to use coconut oil for things. And soy oil became incredibly cheap because of subsidies or something. I know there's like some sort of soybean subsidy issues, and I don't want to get into that. But soybean oil became incredibly cheap at some point, and so the companies that ran the movie theaters, right? They were like, people don't really know the difference, and they tested out the soybean oil, and nobody really said much. And they were still buying the same amount of popcorn, so they started doing that instead of doing coconut oil. And then that's just what movie theater popcorn was soybean oil popcorn. And even the butter is usually soy with oil with butter flavor. So they were saying if you do it at home, you pop it in coconut oil, like the way coconut oil is, the however saturated it is or whatever, makes it taste really good. It has a great mouthfeel, and if you're old, then much older than me, it'll be just like the movie theater popcorn from your childhood. And I read this article and I was like, I mean, I want good popcorn. So I went out and I bought some coconut oil, I bought some popping corn, and I tried to make it. And after a couple of tries, I got pretty good at it, and I was blown away. It is much better. And you can do I do half coconut oil, half butter now, and it has a really good taste. And you can get surprisingly ungreasy popcorn if you get your popcorn slash oil ratio is really good and really delicious, not super hard, not even that hard to not burn it. That was my concern because I feel like in microwaves it's so easy to burn the popcorn, but with popping it on the stove, not that hard. I mean, you should have an adult if you're going to do it, or be an adult. But easy recipe, easy thing to do. So then we started messing around with like the actual recipe. And like one thing I found is if you have really thin salt, really fine salt, really thin salt, if you have really fine salt, you can put that in. Okay, well, I gotta go. Here's the corn. Thank you guys, and we'll see you probably tomorrow. Bye.